Welcome to By Your Side, Divorce Law and Support.
Hello and welcome back to By Your Side, Divorce, Law, and Support with Patricia Sokolich. Pat is a longtime family law attorney and now a divorce coach who helps women move through separation with clarity and confidence. I'm Lisa Mosbey, and today we're talking about child custody. We'll cover the basics of how custody works, what really matters in these decisions, and how moms can protect their children through this process. Pat, welcome back. This is a tough subject. Thank you so much for joining me again today.
Yes, thank you for having me back. Custody is very, very emotional. It is a tough situation. Uh, Clients need to understand prior to going into a divorce exactly what custody means, what types of custody there are, and what the downsides are to not understanding what custody is all about. Uh, Custody is, it's a very emotional matter. It's very fraught with um, anxiety and anxiousness, and um, people just dig their heels in and decide, I have to have custody or I will have custody. And so it's important that they understand how to get custody, what's the best way to proceed to make sure that you become the custodial parent. Years ago, well, not so long ago, but it used to be that the woman sort of automatically got custody. It was just understood. Divorce, the children go with the mother. Well, that's changed over the years. Uh, there were a lot of reasons, but it's changed, and now courts are very willing to give fathers custody of the children, depending on what's going on in the relationship and what the role of the parents are, mother versus father. Uh, that's where the standard comes in. The court has to look to a standard. They're going to get a lot of conflicting information about why I'm the better parent to have custody. But the bottom line is the court and the law looks to what's in the best interest of the child or the children. Where are they going to be best served, with the mother or the father, or joint custody, where their children are split. Um, so when it comes to custody, as I say, it's a matter that's fraught with a lot of anxiety and a lot of grief. But again, if the client knows, and that's what I can offer them, what exactly is custody? What does it mean? What kinds of custody are there? And how do you prepare yourself and the court to make sure that you are the parent that gets custody of your children?
You knew exactly where I was going. I wanted to kick this off with a couple of definitions. What is legal custody and what is physical custody? And why does that distinction matter?
Well, it's a very important distinction, one that needs to be made very clear to the client, because physical custody or residential, it can be either word is used, physical or residential, means that's the party where the children primarily live with. Okay, so that's the person having custody of the children. The uh, definition of legal custody is somewhat different, in that that simply means that the parent, whoever has legal custody, has the right to make decisions, whether it's educational, medical, religious wise. They have to have a say in these decisions, not just the residential or the mother who has, or the person who has physical custody of the children. They get a voice. So when it comes down to which therapist should my child go to, which doctor is better, do you like this doctor or the other doctor? The parent that doesn't have physical custody needs to be informed. They have a right to be at every appointment for the children. They have a right to have a voice into decision making with respect to these matters. Now, when we talk about legal custody, people say, well, what are those issues? Well, it can be a very broad um, topic. What it usually covers is what religion is the child owner. If the religion has been real, it does become an issue because some children, um, are not raised in religion, and then all of a sudden, a parent decides, well, I'm Jewish. I'm going to start taking the child um, to temple, or well, I'm Baptist. Now I'm going to take the child to church every Sunday. So the parent who doesn't have physical custody, that's the parent with legal custody, has a right to say, yes, I agree with this or I don't agree with this. Now, the next thing that you need to be aware of is that if the parent who doesn't have physical custody does not agree with what the residential custody person is saying, they have a right to go to court and they have a right to say, I have legal custody, joint legal custody, and this is what I think would be best for the children. And again, it comes down to what are the best interests for the children. That's where the court decides. It's a lot of factors involved. We don't have time to go into them. But the difference between physical custody is that's what we call the home base for the children. That's where they reside legally. And legal custody is really decision-making power. So most cases, or what I usually try to work towards, is having the mother have residential custody if it's appropriate. Sometimes the mother works long hours or she travels, and it is more important for the children to have the stability of a parent that's available in home. So in many cases, the father will get residential custody, and that's okay because they can be just as good a parent as the mother. So it really depends on what's happening in the lives of each of the parents. But many times when the mother gets custody, we like to make sure the father has legal custody or joint physical custody. That also brings us to the visitation issues and how that's worked out. Visitation, as you know, is when the parent who is not the custodial parent, what sort of time they get to spend with the child or the children. And this is something that can be brought up usually it's done by agreement. The parties work out a schedule, and that's what's, resulting in the visitation schedule. So, again, if the client going into this situation knows what the rules are and what the definitions are, it's a great help to them in moving forward towards what they want.
And I know, Pat, you've handled thousands of these cases over the years. How can parents start preparing their children emotionally for changes in the living arrangement? Do kids need to understand the difference between physical custody, legal custody? This is where I'm going to be living, but this is who's going to be making the decisions on what school I go to or what doctors I see. How does that play into preparing the kids for after divorce?
To be honest, Lisa, that's not really what I consider a, a good method of working with the children. In other words, what we're trying to establish with the children is life's not going to be different for you. So while they have a residential home, I don't like to call it that. I just like to let them know this is where you're living. It's probably your same bedroom, the same house you were in. And now you're going to have another house to visit. And that's going to be when you spend time with dad. They need to understand that they do have a home base or a place, okay? You don't want them to think that they're free floating now and they really don't have a home. The idea is let them know that they have a home, they still have a home, and now the difference is they have a second home. They have a place where they're going to visit dad, they're going to do things with him, and they're going to spend some time with him separate from the mother, which may be different and may not. They may have always had, separate experiences with the father or the mother. The best method of dealing with the children is to establish security and stability. Try and keep it as normal as possible and as not as and not disruptive. All right. Um, there are a lot of changes for the children. But I think that's important, and I usually coach the mothers to be very supportive of the children's visits with the father. Not not to disparage, not to say if the child says, "I don't want to see daddy," say, "Okay, you don't have to go." Yes, there's an order. The child does have to go. And it's important for the health of the child and for the father and the mother. It's your job to make the child understand things are a little different now, but yes, you're going to spend time with dad. And, Monday, Wednesday, whatever it is, that's when you have to go. The child can't steer the bus here and say, I want or I don't want. They have to understand that this is a new way of living and it's okay. And nothing is going to change except you have two places to be. And yeah, you have to see dad and you have to spend time. The worst thing you can do is allow the child to say, I don't want to go, or say, call up the father and say, oh, they're crying, they don't want to go, or they're sick. That's just upsetting to the child. Eventually, it just becomes a nightmare because you wind up back in court and the child is upset because the child realizes they don't really have a say. And that becomes very, very disruptive to the child's life. The most important thing you can do for them is give them the stability. The stability to know life's going to continue okay for you.
Pat, we hear this statement often, and I'm curious how it applies to custody decisions. What does the best interest of the child standard mean when it comes to custody decisions?
The term best interest of the child is something that's come down me through the years, and it's come down mostly through case law. Okay. By that, I mean judges have used that as a standard. When there's custody fights or parents are fighting over custody, the courts have decided the only way to settle it fairly is to take a look at the children and what's going to be the best place for these children. Where are they going to thrive? Where are they going to find stability? Where are they going to excel at school? Where are they going to be able to continue their friendships with children or their activities or remain in the same schools and not have to go and change everything? So there's a lot of factors. Which parent is the one giving them the most emotional stability or emotional support? Which parent is doing the best things for the child? Whether the child needs a therapist, whether the child needs a tutor, whether the child needs braces. You have to look to the parent that's being responsible, the parent that's looking at the child and saying, what's the best thing for the child? So best interest comes down to not looking at the parents and saying who is the better parent. They look at that simply to determine which is the better parent that's going to do the best for the child. So best interest just focuses on where is the child going to be most helped. And that's where the court's looking to place the child.
Pat, what common mistakes do you see parents sometimes make during custody discussions that can ultimately hurt their kids or their case?
There are several big ones, and one of the most upsetting or egregious things a parent can do is to try and alienate the child. In other words, pick me, pick me, pick me. Why? And then they will start saying, your mother did this, your mother did that, or your father had an affair, your father doesn't love us, your father did this, he left us, he's not giving me money. That's a big no-no. Whether the father pays child support or not, you're not to bring that up with the children. That's an issue parents need to work out. You can't and you shouldn't do anything to alienate the child from the father. Parental alienation is a term it's somewhat lost favor, but it's come back with an extraordinary, extraordinary powerful, I don't know exactly what word, but it's come back to haunt the parents and the courts because it's hard to believe, but a parent can alienate a child who had no issue being with the mother or no issue being with the father just through their actions or through their denigrating of the other parent, make the child not want to be with that parent and object to visitation, to act out when they're with that parent. So the best thing you can do for your child when it comes to visitation is to try and take your animosity and your anger and put it aside and understand that a child does need both parents to have a healthy emotional life. And giving them that is the biggest gift you could give your children.
I like that. Here's where I want to wrap up today's episode. Uh, how can divorce coaching help moms separate their feelings about their ex from the parenting decisions that need to be made?
That's a very good question. It's very hard. It's very difficult because when women or men are meshed into this divorce process, it is so overwhelming. There's so many different facets of it that have to be addressed that the mere fact of what should I be doing or how should I work with the children or how can I take the anger issues and put them aside. Again, this is where a divorce coach can be very helpful because you can explain to the client that what you're feeling now and what you're going through has a lot to do with the fact that you're in the middle of the divorce and the feelings change, things smooth out after. The parent who is so angry and so interfering with visitation or whatever, after everything settles down and they realize it's okay, they're not losing their children, mom is being supportive and things are going to be okay, then things settle down more into a normal pattern, or at least a normal pattern for the divorced parents and the children. It's very important to have someone there telling you throughout. The best thing to do is to make sure that you don't take your anger out on the children, you don't try to manipulate your children, and it can be done. I've seen divorces where the parents come out very stable, the children are happy, and they co-parent. That's really what we're looking for. Parents who can co-parent their children no matter how angry they are or how much they hate each other. The focus has to be on what's best for the kids and how can we make them as strong as individuals as they can be.
Well said. The goal is to raise healthy adults, not just healthy kids. We want them to be able to transition through this process. And with you in their court, I can see how they'll get there. Thank you so much for your insights today, Pat.
Very welcome. It's nice being here.
Folks, thank you for listening to By Your Side, Divorce Law and Support with Patricia Sokolich. If you're facing custody questions and want guidance on how to protect your children while staying calm and focused, Pat offers private coaching to help moms navigate these challenges with confidence. To learn more or schedule a session, you can call 917-478 7505 or visit SokolichFamilyLaw.com. And if this episode was helpful, please be sure to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.